I never finished school, to be honest with you. It was just one of those, things where you paid for a class and,
Mm-hmm.
and hopefully you had enough money to take the next one, So it was,
Got it. Yeah.
I, during that time when I was there, I was very fortunate to meet Mike Buckus, who was the one who took me under his wing at that time. And it was like 1996, maybe. I got out of the military in 1995. And so around 96, 97, uh, I remember Mike had a studio uh, upstairs in this building, and he was just phenomenal. I mean, he has worked on thousands of projects, and so he and I hit it off. And he had mentioned that I had a pretty good sense for composition, and so he says, "Do you want to help me out on this one gig?" And I think it was for Superman at that time, the Superman Returns. And so I said, sure. And so I started helping him out. I was taking actually, he was teaching there, and I was taking his classes, and I loved taking his classes on illustration and just he had so many techniques, using acrylics or oils and using different tools like the airbrush, whatever it might be. So you had some phenomenal artists and illustrators there. Well, I don't think it was until about 2003 where he threw me in the deep end, and he says, "Here, you're gonna go to this one company, and you're gonna just take on what you got." I'm like, "Well, I don't have much. I mean, I haven't really done any jobs, other than what I've helped you on. Just go try to get the work." So I went, and it was a pretty big company. I don't know if they still exist, but they were working at that time on Polar Express. And so, yeah, with Tom
Watch
Hanks,
that.
it was Robert Zemeckis' film, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so they gave me the job. They said, "We need you to do some work for standees, and we need you to do some concept work. We need you to do this stuff." And I was like, "Oh my God," I was not ready for it. Now, here's the funny thing. Mike and I were actually, he was doing it for another company. So we're kind of competing against each other and stuff. But
Ooh.
of course, Mike was always a great sport. And, he helped me immensely with this work. And so it was actually my first real venture into film, conceptual work for film, and and it worked out. It worked out. I just it worked out for me, and then I started getting more and more work, and so there I was doing illustrations, and so and we were working directly with Robert Zemeckis, so that was a real joy. I do recall, I think maybe my first illustration job was maybe when I was 17, but that came because my sister was working for Dino De Laurentiis, and they were doing a movie with Edward James Olmos and Willem Dafoe, which was called Triumph of the Spirit. And it was, I think it was about the life of a boxer during World War II. And I guess we're having issues with the title. And she says, "Hey, are you willing to try to come up with a title for illustration for this movie?" And I worked on it for a few days, and they accepted it. So yeah, it was my first paid gig as an illustrator. They actually ran with it. So it was just a title, and it had the barbed wire going through the font,
Mm-hmm.
and it had the boxing gloves on the side. And they actually used it for the title. So they refined it, did their thing, and so yeah, they used it. So that
Oh,
was pretty. I was like, "Oh my God!" At that time, I think I got like $200 or $300, for the sketch, right?
it's
Yeah,
pretty
I
good.
was 17. Yeah, that's pretty good. It was pretty good.
Yeah.
Well, for me, right? Yeah. And
Yeah.
so, but I did everything I could to try to come up with money so that I can learn. That included selling oranges at the park when I was. I did. And I was a kid. I was a little kid, and I remember my dad would take me to this park because his buddy was selling oranges and stuff, the bag, and they were a dollar bag at the time. And so he said, "Hey, we'll give you a quarter for each bag that you sell." So um, I sell a bag, and then I take that quarter and I go get a sidewalk Sunday, which from the I'd run after the ice cream man. And when I was finally sick of sidewalk Sundays, I started saving it up, and then I would start getting art supplies or crayons, markers, whatever it might be. Man, that started really early on. But I became clever in that I would always go to the kissing couples, and I'd stand there, even after they bought a bag, so they can take the other one. And so all the couples with 2 bags of oranges.
That's
But
awesome.
and then I would take whatever side jobs. I was collecting aluminum cans. I even became I even became a psychic friend. So
Nice.
oh my god,
Wow.
it sounds so weird saying that. I was a psychic friend. And so that was an odd job. And so it was just I was just taking the oddest jobs, just trying to make money for my craft. And so, you know what, when I think about it, I started airbrushing shirts. I was working at art fairs, and so I was just going mad, painting, easily 50 shirts a day until your wrist was just raw. And I started painting billboards for Tower Records. Do you remember Tower Records?
Yeah.
Man,
I
you're too
think.
way too young for that. But it was on Sunset Strip, and you would paint these big album covers on these billboards, and and then there was another company I worked for, Art Attack, and I was
You worked for Art
painting
Attack? Hold
Art
up.
Attack.
That's my
Yes,
favorite
I worked
show
for
as a kid.
Art Attack.
Art Attack. I loved it.
So I was just painting a bunch of stuff, and just all these odd jobs. And so yeah, I I learned, if I learned anything, it was tenacity.
Yes.
To Because if nobody was going to hand it to me, I mean, I was very fortunate to have people like Mike Buckus and Steve Bray, who actually put me to work doing painting jackets on Sunset. There was a store called Bray's Rock and Art. It was right between the Whiskey and the Roxy, and I remember painting jackets there. And um, Guns N' Roses shot a video, and they would walk in, and they'd say, "Oh, who painted these?" And so all of us, we're proud of our work. We're like, "Oh, we got to meet quite a few celebrities." I actually was able to paint a jacket for Keanu Reeves. We had breakfast together, and I painted a dragon for Keanu Reeves on a jacket. So Louis Anderson would come by too, and so it was a neat experience. Like I said, if anything, I knew in my gut that I wanted to paint, and that's what I want to do. And so and many detours as I had, I'm glad that I was stubborn enough to stick to wanting to learn
Yeah.
and getting, you know, I need, yeah. I mean, yeah, I had to pay my bills. I had to try to come up with money for those classes. So, it's not cheap. It's a small fortune learning, right?